Hi, first graders and first grade parents. Miss Pagan here. Today is Thursday, and we're going to talk about what we are going to do for writing today. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different, something that we haven't done during distance learning yet. Today, we are going to be doing an informational writing, but it's going to be in the form of a letter. So students are going to be writing a letter to incoming first graders who are going to be first graders next year. And what they're going to be doing is giving some tips and advice on how to be a great first grader and have a great year. So again, we're going to be doing an informational writing, but again, it will be in the form of a letter. And we'll go through all the different parts that students will need to include today. They're going to write a letter to incoming first graders, give them tips on how to have a great first grade year. So in order to get writing done today, students will of course need to have their journal or something to write with. They can go ahead and write the date, their name, and then their number. And then they should take about 10 to 12 minutes to draw a picture. Their picture today should be of things that they got to do in first grade, things that they learned in first grade, or other things that really stick out from the school year. So students should take some time to really think about it and then go ahead and draw their picture. They could, of course, draw themselves in the picture, or if they just want to draw some of the things that they learned instead, they could do that as well. After 10 to 12 minutes, students will be ready to start their letter. Now, today we're going to have to start with an opening. We haven't done that yet, again, during distance learning, but for a letter, we have to have an opening. The opening is where we introduce who we are writing to. So our opening that we are going to start with today is going to be Dear First Graders, and then a comma. So if students are writing on their line paper in their journal, they're going to want to go on the top line, the line at the very, very top. They're going to want to copy Dear First Graders, and then their comma. If your teacher did a morning message this year, students may remember back to when they would read the opening of their morning message, of their letter from their teacher each day. And the opening was always on a line by itself. And then we would continue the writing underneath it. So students are going to want to make sure that their opening, Dear First Graders, and their comma, is all by itself on the top line. So even though it's not a sentence, we still want to make sure we have students go back and quick check their opening. So they're going to check that they use their uppercase letters. And again, for this opening, they're going to want an uppercase D because it's starting the opening. And then the F and the G can be uppercase because they're technically being used as proper nouns. They're going to want to check for their finger space. In this case, there won't be a period. They'll need to have a comma. And then they'll, of course, need to whisper read and make sure that their letters are on the line and that they didn't leave any of the words out of their opening. After students write their opening, they'll be ready for their topic sentence. For this letter, they're going to want to make sure that they introduce themselves because the incoming first graders, of course, won't know who these students are. So we want to make sure students who are writing today are introducing themselves to the readers. So their sentence will be, my name is blank. So this is where students will write their name. They could write their first name and their last name or just their first name. It's up to them. And then it says, and I am almost done with first grade. Again, this topic sentence is giving a little bit of information or background to the reader about who's writing this letter. So students can go ahead and just copy this part for today. They don't have to make anything up on their own for this topic sentence. Going along with the topic sentence, this is kind of another part of the topic or the opening that we want to make sure that students know what they're about to read. So it says, here are some tips for you to have a great year. So students should make sure, of course, after they write their topic sentence that they do their quick checks and they're writing their topic sentence under where they did their opening. Your next sentence, the next blue sentence, can continue. So students don't need to skip down again. This is the meat part of their letter. So they need to just continue their sentences wherever they left off. After they have copied this sentence about the tips, they can go ahead and quick check that sentence as well. Then we're going to get into our first detail. So this is where students should really take some time to think about what are some great tips or strategies that they learned this year in first grade that would help incoming first graders. So for example, students might say something like, first, always remember to try your best. That's something that we worked on all year. That's something that we talked a lot about all year. So that would be a great tip for an incoming first grader to know. They might say something like, to start. So they might say something like, to start, always be kind and make new friends. Or they might say something like, to begin with, something like, to begin with, be responsible and remember to bring all the things you need with you to school each day. So students should go ahead and start with their topic sentence starter, their detail sentence starter, and then go ahead and say out loud what their idea is, what their tip is for the incoming first graders. After they've shared that out loud, they can go ahead and write their sentence on the line, and of course doing their quick checks as they go. So by the end of today, students should have a picture. Students should have their opening at the top on a line by itself. They should have their topic sentence where they introduce themselves by name, either first name and last name or just first name. They should have the sentence about the tips for students to have a good year. And then they should have their first detail sentence introducing one of their tips for the incoming first graders. So if they have all of those things done, then they will be ready to continue their tips in their detail sentences tomorrow. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or your child's teacher, and happy writing.